Now that you're ready for a challenge, or I hope you are, we're going to move into pattern grading. So, pattern grading is fun. It's something that is done all the time by industry. Essentially, what it is it's taking a basic pattern called a base pattern and increasing or decreasing the size. So all companies have a base pattern that usually fits a fit model, and that's what uh, you're using for essentially your dress form is going to be your fit model. And then they again increase or decrease the size from that base pattern. So there's a few things that you need to know. First, pattern grading has some rules to it, and one of those rules is that a pattern always has what's referred to as a 0, 0 point. So you see my pointer here on a skirt pattern. The 0, 0 point is the front and back waist and at the center. And so the front and back waist is the 0, 0 point. So basically what that means is that that point doesn't move. In other words, we're not going to increase or decrease that particular point. The next thing is a little challenging, and that is to remember your algebra and the coordinate system. So you see that we have crosshairs here. And in pattern grading, any point that you select, for example, if I pick this point where the crosshairs are, it's referred to as a relative 0, 0 point. So from that point, I can increase either in my X or my Y direction. So I can go up, that would be a positive Y. I could go down from that point, that would be a negative Y. I could go to the right of that point, and that would be a positive X. And I could go to the left of that point, and that would be a negative X. So any point that you pick on a pattern when you're moving, called a grade movement, is either going to be in a positive X, a negative X, a positive Y, or a negative Y. So you always have to keep that in mind with the points that you're going to be moving to. The next thing about pattern grading is that you'll see in this box here that we have 1, 1.5, 2. And that refers to common grade movements. In other words, from a base pattern, we have either a 1 inch difference between the base pattern and, say, a smaller size, or we have a 1.5 inch difference from, again, the base pattern or this light gray line to a larger or a smaller size. Or we have a 2 inch grade. So in other words, it's moving again from the base pattern to a larger size is 2 inches. So to understand that, let's say that our base pattern, the waist, is 26 inches. That means that the next size larger would be uh, 2 inches or 28 inches on a 2 inch grade, or it might be 27 inches on a 1 inch grade. That's why when you try on different brands, some of them use a 1 inch grade, others use a 2 inch grade, that you may fit in a smaller size for different brands. So let's move into Tukatech and let me show you how to grade a pattern. Here we are in Tukatech, and I have my skirt patterns. We're going to be focusing just on grading the skirt so that it will fit your dress form. And I'm first going to work on the back and then on the front. So the first thing that you do in grading is you set up the sizes that you want. So I'm going to go to grading and sizes. Now this confuses a lot of people because they think that this is the actual increase or decrease, but it's not. It is just a label. So I'm labeling this a 4. I can append and say label it an 8. I append again and label it a 10. So append is going increasing or down from the base size, and then insert would be to make a smaller size. So insert for smaller, append for larger. You can label these anything that you want. They could be small, medium, large. You can do vanity sizing if you want, so you can make your size 6 a size 2. Again, it's only a label. So I'm going to go ahead and close that, but that's your first step. Your next step is to show the grade table. And to do that, you go to View and then drag down to Grading Tables. So we have the sizes done already, the 4, 6, 8, and 10. And now we have a table just showing us those sizes. And that's how we're actually going to do the movement. So you see in this example that 6 is not check marked. That's my base size, or the size that I start with. And then I have a smaller size 4, and I have two larger sizes, the 8 and the 10. So we need our grade table. So after we have the grade table showing up, I'm going to come down to show how to grade an individual pattern. As I mentioned, I have a 0, 0 point. So the center back waist is 0, 0. So you don't want to see any X or Y movement on the center back waist. Now next, if I want to get to the hem for my next point, I click on next point. And remember that Tüketech thinks in a clockwise direction. So my next point here is going to be my hem. So that's the point that I'm going to now move. Now, again, the waist, the Y direction, is not going to move for the center back or the center front. I'm only going to move the X or the horizontal direction. So I'm going to highlight it, and then you put in the amount for the smaller size. So I want to do a 1-inch grade, and I want to increase this by an inch, or a quarter of an inch, excuse me, for the length. And so in X, to do the smaller size, I'm going to put in 1/4 because it's actually moving to my right 1/4 of an inch. So now I can check and I can see that I now have different sizes here. I'm then going to move to my next point. So you see that it's then highlighted. And now on my grade movement, I'm going to move on the side seams. So I don't move on the center front, but I do move on the side seams. So the side seam, so I'm going to move on the side seam. So X is going to be the same movement as what I had before. So I'm going to put in a positive 1/4. Y is going to be a 1-inch grade. And how we figure out how much we're going to move is we take the grade movement, 1 inch, and we divide it by the number of seam allowances. So if I were to look at this side seam here, that I have a left front, I have a left back, I have a right front, and a right back for my side seam. So I have 4. So I take 1 inch divided by 4, and I'm going to get 1/4 of an inch. Now I'm going to make the movement for the smaller size, and so that means that it's going to go down in X. So I'm going to do a negative 1/4. And you see again that my size 4 is now smaller. And then I'm going to do next, it comes to my next grade point, which is where we did our measuring for our hip. And X doesn't move inside a pattern, only on external points. Y is going to move the same amount that it did at the hem. So it's going to be a negative 0.25. I'm going to move to the next point, and X again doesn't move on a skirt, and Y is going to be the negative 0.25 for the smaller size. So I can check it because my lines don't cross, and the gray, which is the 4, is the smaller of the sizes. Now the next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to grade the darts. And for the darts, here, they actually don't increase in size, but they just move. In other words, they're positioned differently. So if I click on my grade point for my dart, in the Y direction, if you refer back to that slide that I just had in PowerPoint, it says that a dart should move 1/8 of an inch. And so I'm going to move it again down for my smaller size. And so I'm going to put it the 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to move to my other side of my dart. And again, I'm going to put in 1/8 of the same amount. And again, all it did was it just shifted the dart. It's not increasing or decreasing the amount of that dart. And so again, I'm just going to do Y minus 1/8, and the same thing for the other side of my dart. And you see that they shifted. So I have my completed back pattern piece. Now I want to do the front pattern piece. So the front and the back skirt, when I'm grading it, they need to match. So again, we have our 0, 0 point for our center front at the waist. So that's the 0, 0 point. And if I go to next, now I need to have it match what's on the back. So the back and front again are supposed to match. So the easiest thing to do is to click on the back, go to the copy function. So click on copy, come over to the pattern, select the corresponding point, and click on paste. Then I can go to the hem. Again, I can go to copy and then the side seam and go to paste and select again where my hip was, or that measurement line, and again go to copy and then click on the corresponding point and click on paste and click on copy and click on the corresponding paste, and then go to my side seam at the waist. Again, click on copy and click on again paste. I want to do the same for my darts, and again I'm going to click on copy and come down and click on corresponding point and click on the paste. And the same for the other dart. Again, do my copy and paste. And there you see that I'm done. So I have my front and my back pattern pieces. So this concludes 1-inch pattern grading.